Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRNFM, and we are so excited today because we have a very special guest returning. And before I introduce him, I just want to read a quote that really has impacted me and touched my life. And when I read it, and it makes me think of him. The quote is by Buckminster Fuller, and he said, "Never forget that you are one of a kind. Never forget that if there weren't any need for you in all your uniqueness to be on this earth, you wouldn't be here in the first place. And never forget, no matter how overwhelming life's challenges and problems seem to be, that one person can make a difference in the world. In fact, it's always because of one person that all the changes that matter in the world come about. So be that one person." So one of those people that makes a difference in the world is my co-host, Michael J. Russ, and I'd like to welcome you, Michael. And I'd also like to welcome back Eric Alexandrakis. And I promise you, Eric, I tried to practice your name with a Greek accent, and I failed miserably. But for our audience,
it's a lifelong struggle.
Our audience members who may have missed the show previously, Eric is a 2-time Grammy-nominated songwriter, founder of Minoan Music. He is one of the most creative people I have come across in a very long time. I said on the show last time that listening to your music and seeing what you create is like being in an amusement park. And I truly, truly believe that. And there is so much creativity and so much uniqueness that you put forth. And I just so excited to welcome you back. Yeah, I just really am just blown away by everything that you do. And I think that for so many people in our audience that really being the best that you can be, and what I applaud you for is that being the best you is something that you have embodied. And I think that at the core, that what we do and what we learn and what we appreciate about ourselves is really about being the best of everything that we are, and that we need to really learn to embrace that opportunity and understand the incredible power that we have and that we possessed, and how we align ourselves with creativity and what we want to bring forth. So I would love to, without further ado, welcome you and have you share a little bit about your journey into discovering how you can be the best Eric that you can be.
It's funny. After our first discussion, I discovered something about myself that I didn't really realize existed, and that is that, especially at this stage of my existence, I'm constantly looking for happiness. So in like the smallest little nuances. So, you see a bird. Oh, I wonder what bird that was. I'm going to look it up. And I Google. I'm like, that's interesting. What does it eat? And is it here? Or you see some article, some sort of, always looking for something positive, even in the bad things. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I'm very curious about a lot of things and interested in pretty much everything and curious about everything. But also being in the entertainment business, you are bombarded with all kinds of predator-based people, things, systems, blah, 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 blah. So in order to keep yourself balanced and sane, it's almost like a self-preservation, automatic self-preservation thing to kind of try to find the positive in everything. Everything, even the nuance of just enjoying a flower, and you had mentioned last time, like, there's a lot of upbeat songs that I have, and I love upbeat 3-chord happy tunes about summer, cars, girls, just those classic kind of pop rock tunes, which songwriters are kind of always trying to achieve in that simplistic way. So that came about from our first discussion, which is strange because I never really thought about it, and then I just kind of realized it. So thank you.
Isn't that beautiful? Thank you very much for sharing that. It's just awesome. Yeah, it really is.
It's weird. I mean, I don't know if it's the cancer stuff and just experiences with death, tragedy, and stuff like that have kind of pushed me to put that out of my mind with constantly trying to find the positive side of things, because, after a certain number of experiences through your life, you can get a bit bogged down even though you don't realize it. And I've never been like a sad person. I've always been a very positive person, always trying to find the positive side. Oh, I ripped my pants. Well, I'll just get new pants. I don't sit there and cry about it.
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't know if that has anything to do with what we're saying, but maybe because I'm an artist. Well, I don't know.
It's all relevant in my view because of the fact that we're all individuals, and you focus a lot on your creative side. Yet, what gets forgotten when it comes to musicians, actors, Broadway singers, people who are in the limelight type businesses, I could say, is that you're human. And it means that even though you have a real heavy creative side and are capable of doing some fabulous things, again, you still have a family, you've got a son, you've got life, you got to deal with the same thing that everybody else deals with. You're just in a different line of work. As my brother always say, yeah, it's great, but it's just a job.
Right.
It's great that you're in there, but technically it's a gig. It's work.
Right.
And it's what you're there for, is to get more work. And hopefully one begets something even better, and then something better, and then more challenging. However, the bottom line is it's a gig, and when it's over, you're on to the next one. In between all that, you still have to be happy. You still have to, because otherwise you get caught up in this thing that some friends of my niece who's in a stand-in on the Broadway show traveling tour show of Hamilton right now. A lot of her friends who are also in the business, and this is something my sister told me the other day I find completely fascinating. They spend a lot of time going to school and getting not only their education but their chops together for singing in Broadway plays or in being in the music business, whatever it is, acting. And one thing is plaguing them right now. It's doubt. What's plaguing them is that it's this blanket coating of doubt that they can succeed. And the question I ask is, where did this come from? I'm perplexed by it. And I said, what are you talking about? She says, yeah, these kids, they don't, when they come over, when Giselle's in town, you don't want to ask them what they're doing. Don't ask them what they're doing. Don't ask them what they're doing now.
Right.
Because they're home living with their parents because they didn't jump off the cliff and go follow their dream because they're afraid that they will not realize their dream. And it's a sad way to live. And all I can say is that and I know being a creative like yourself, you can kind of give us some insight as to how your creativity and being human relates to how you might raise another human being. How you might instill in them the opportunities abound for them, and that they can succeed in anything they put their mind to. The positivity, the acknowledgement, the encouragement. That it's beyond telling them you love them. It's about preparing them preparing them for life, which means that you're going to fail. Now, what do you do when you fall down? You get back up. And then allowing them, being brave enough as a parent to allow them to fail, to have them put themselves in a position where your hands are off and they fail, and you're not trying to prevent them from failing. And this is what I've seen a lot of parents who want to prevent their child from feeling any pain or failing. And then when they get to be an adult,
I'm not so good.
What is it?
Good to hear.
Shed some light on your thoughts about that.
So I never had doubt in what I could do. I always had confidence in my abilities. The thing that I needed encouragement in was socially, in a way. Like I had low self-esteem in junior high, and so when I entered, I went from a public school, 6th grade, which I really enjoyed, and a very, very diverse group of people, to going to a Christian school, 7th grade, thinking, wow, this is a Christian school, and people are going to be even better, like understanding and this and that.
I'm sorry, I'm chuckling.
Well, yeah. So you laughed at exactly what I was, the point I was going to make.
Where'd that go?
So I get in there, and it's an expensive Christian school. I really don't know why my parents put me in there, but I did make a lot of lifelong friends. So when you get into a private school like that, there are a lot of kids who are there from well-off parents, and they have the expensive clothes and the expensive headphones and this and that. And I'm wearing my brother's hand-me-downs. And when he went into 7th grade, it was the 70s. Mm-hmm. So this is 1984, and I'm wearing clothes from 1979 because they're hand-me-downs. So, pun intended, I got crucified by the kids. And it kind of didn't help that the girls thought I was cute, and that created jealousies. And and then, of course, the indoctrination of, their specific points of view, which a lot of it was very contradicting to the actual religion. I mean, I had a professor in 12th grade, but anyway, the teacher said he called Jews the children of the devil because a girl was dating a Jewish guy, and I'm like, what? Like, according to the religion, the Jews are the chosen people, in the Bible. Mm-hmm. So how can you sit there and call the Jews the children of the devil because you have a problem with her dating a Jewish guy? So like there were these contradictions over time in there. But anyway, I guess that's kind of getting off the thing. But like that created a strange environment. And then junior high, like there's like the prettiest girl in our class, like defended me from bullies, and that gave me social confidence that changed a lot of how I dealt with people. So so then that grew and grew and grew, and then you end up having these lifelong friends and the whole high school experience, and then that fueled my confidence in my creative abilities and is a big part of how I turned out. So
which is absolutely wonderful, by the way. I love that.
Yeah, well, she ended up being a horrible person in the end. But in the end, the gesture, the smallest little nuances can sometimes affect people, for life. So with my kiddo, I see some of the similar things he's going through, and I tell him, I went through that as well. and he thinks I'm just trying to comfort him. I'm like, no, it was the same thing with me. I had, hand-me-downs, but, I kind of, now my way of thinking is so much more mathematical than it was back then. Whereas like now, like I said, you rip your pants, whatever, get new pants. You lose the train, get the next one. Don't stand there and just be all, emotionally broken about it. It's just a train ride. It's just a pair of pants. So I tend to just kind of show him these issues as a mathematical equation. But
interesting.
But like, because he wants to be in engineering and automotive design, and I'm like, listen, you're going to have to look at life as like, okay, this broke. You don't sit there and be like, oh, God, yeah, it broke. Figure out a way to fix it. Whereas I wasn't able to really approach things like that when I was his age. It was more of like, what are they going to think of me? The teacher's going to be mad, Whereas now it's like, okay, you didn't do well on the test. You can take it again. Go get tutored. That's it.
Right.
So, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure that's the best way. But really, it's kind of the only way, because if he learns early to look at problems as what's the solution rather than this is going to ruin my life or someone's going to hate me.
Very good point. Excellent.
It'll make things easier, especially if he wants to go into engineering, which is math and mechanics and okay, it's overheating. Well, let's figure out what the problem is. Don't sit there and whine about it. Just figure it out. Everything has a solution until you're gone. That's what I'm trying to.
Solution.
Yeah, everything, literally everything. I mean, I had a Zoom an hour ago on a project and with a bass manufacturer, and I talk about this project, and the project might not be within their means, but the reality is, find a sponsor or do it differently, cut costs, or, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just you find another way to do it, So
work around. Let me ask you a question.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I was just going to say real quick, Michael, that Michael and I have talked a lot before about Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, and when she would come home from school, her dad would be like, "Okay, so what did you fail at today?" And it was so awesome, I think, because, okay, well, now you can do better, figure out a different way. And so when she was developing her company, she basically didn't tell anybody what she was doing for a year because she didn't want anybody telling her that it was a stupid idea. And
so he wasn't putting it down. That was a good thing. He wasn't putting it down.
No, not at all. No, okay. He was actually wanting them to find a better way. Like, okay, thank you. Like, basically congratulating them for trying, and trying something new, and recognizing the fact that you may not always succeed. And, it really gave her a lot of gumption. She was a fax machine salesman, and then she kind of had this need. She noticed that when she wore white pants, like, they didn't look so great. She needed to come up with a solution. And then the way that she basically sold her product, she went into a department store and said to the person that was the buyer, like, hey, guess what? Come into the fitting room with me. I have something to show you. And so it really taught her sort of out-of-the-box thinking, which, again, is sort of, what I appreciate about you, because you do approach things from a different standpoint. And in my opinion, life is full of lots of different bridges into the unknown. And both Absolutely. Michael and I can relate to what you're saying, because we both had our challenges in school where we had kids not being so kind. I mean, I was always the new kid, and like you have these jealousies, and I'll tell you, I don't talk about this very often, but it's actually a pretty hysterical story. I had these 3 boys. I was a portable trailer, and they broke in to the classroom and decided to pick on 3 kids, and I was one of them. And I opened up. This is back when the top of the school desk he lifted it up, and I'm like, what is this in my desk with all my pencils? And here it was cat litter with cat poop in my desk. And but it was like, did it shape me? Did it make me feel bad? They got expelled. But it was just like, what a bizarre thing to do. And
they're just attention seekers. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, but it was, but I do believe that, you know, we have these paths, and it's sort of uncharted destinations that we forge to, and like you, I've always been happy. Michael's similar to me, you know, so it's
well, I really
always appreciate what you're saying.
But I've always kind of tried to find that, and I don't know that you can ever find it. I think it's something that, you know, you can feel it, but like, I mean, it depends on your definition. Some people might be like, well, owning a Ferrari will make me happy. All right, go get a Ferrari. Or having a hit song will make me happy, or winning a Grammy will make me happy. Like, none of those things really apply for me. For me, it's just doing what I want and enjoying even the simple things. I mean, I like to mow the lawn.
Nice. Yeah.
Like I can sit there and I think, and it's normal. I mean, I find strange pleasure in doing dishes, where most people.
Oh, I love doing dishes.
Yeah, there's something about.
I'm a dish dude, man. I have to agree with you. Although I must tell you, it's interesting. As somebody who has been chasing, one goal after another for almost 40 years, in various areas, I've come to understand that this idea that happiness is something outside of us that we have to seek sets us down a path that we can never achieve. We're never going to achieve happiness, because it's the carrot stick thing. It's always out in front of you, but you can never really reach it, right? You know it's there, you see it, except for the fact that it's not there. That's the illusion. Right. That's the illusion sold to us by the capitalistic society, right? It's always inside of us, and really, it boils down to, yes, your definition of happiness. The goal that we set for ourselves, if we tell ourselves we're going to feel a certain way when we get to that particular point, which is unfortunately what society teaches you, to, revel in your victory, and really what you're doing along the way doesn't really matter. How you get there doesn't matter, as long as you revel and you're victorious, and then you revel in the victory. The problem is it's always a hollow victory, because it always ends at some particular point. So it's the journey. It's the little things that lead up to it. It's those little things you were just talking about: taking a walk, watching birds fly, doing things that mowing the lawn, doing dishes. I do all the dishes. I love them. I love doing dishes. I told Lisa last week, when I clean the house, I'm like a Tasmanian devil. Don't get in my way. You'll get run over, because I like to clean, and I get busy with it. It's a single-minded focus. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not even listening to music. I'm getting busy. Got things to do, and same thing with dishes. I have this I apply the Service Pro slogan to after we have company over. It's like it never happened. It's like it never happened. That's my idea of the kitchen. It's like it never happened. I look at my girlfriend and say, it's like it never happened. You walk into the kitchen, it's like nothing happened that evening. Nothing. Yeah,
problem. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, my problem is, it's one thing to do clean, but if somebody's making a mess and doesn't respect that you have to pick it up, then that pisses me off.
You know what I learned to do? If my girlfriend's cooking a big meal, I wash as she's cooking. I don't wait for the dishes to pile up in the sink. If she's done with something, I take it, I wash it right then and there. And we have two sinks. It's away from it's not in the way of her cooking. She's got her own sink if she's cooking, and I stand at the other sink. And if as she gets done with stuff, I clean it. If she has to reuse it again, I clean it, set it aside. She can grab it and reuse it, whatever.
You're like a woman's dream.
I've been told that. However, here's the thing. All I'm doing, you tell your son, figure out a way, right? So I don't want to look at a big pile of dishes, of 50 dishes at the end of the night. I want to look at about 3 dishes, 3 pots and pans, because I know I got to clean it up, and I don't want to look at that. So I innovated this little way of cleaning things that need to be cleaned. If there's a knife, cutting knife, the cutting board needs to be used several different times, I'll clean it and then put it back. It gets used again. Clean that pot. She's done with it. Okay, right. She strained this out. Okay, that's done. That just boiled water. That just did this thing, whatever. It's like I like to innovate these little ways of being efficient. I've always been that way, just ways of being efficient. And I clean the house the same way. And I nobody knows this, but I got to tell you, I took home ec when I was 12. I took home economics when I was 12 at a high school in Turkey. And I learned I was the only guy in the class, and I was the only guy that ever was in the class. and I learned how to be self-reliant. And I can sew, I can use a sewing machine, I can cook, I cook breakfast every morning, and I love it, And
that's awesome.
Yeah, because it's really interesting. So I guess where I'm going with all this is what you were talking about, those little things that those little joys that you have, that is happiness. That's absolutely the definition of happiness. That feeling you get in your solar plexus, that warmth that you feel throughout your body when you finish mowing the lawn and you look at it, or the happiness you have as you're mowing it, the feelings you have. It's like what nobody ever teaches us is to pay attention to how we feel when we're doing things, and then do more things that make you feel good instead of the things that don't. Right? That's it. Just focus more on that. Okay. If you don't like mowing your lawn, pay a lawn guy, and then let them do it, and then look at it and revel in it, and have fun. Pick up a few pine cones. Here we got pine cones everywhere. I could pick those up and put them out at the street. No big deal, okay, to keep it looking great. But somebody else comes over and does the half an hour, zing, zang, done, finish. So there are projects that I will take on, and laying out bark and flower beds and doing things. My girlfriend has a barn. I'm always forever fixing something at the barn. Heck, the door just fell off of one of the stalls. I got to replace 2 hinges, right? 2 hinges on a 100-pound door.
And I know you're not going to Jimmy Jack it, right? You're going to do it the right way.
I can't Jimmy Jack it. I can't Jimmy Jack a door. I got to put a hinge on. I got to get it level. So but to me, I look at that as a project, right? She says, okay, we got to restain the barn. I'm going, great. I got my palm sander. I'll turn the music on. I brought my own music because I bought her a system with a couple of indoor-outdoor Bose speakers. When she turned 50, that was her 50th birthday present. I was out there at 1 a.m. hooking this thing up. And then she came out the next morning to ride her horse, and there was this music, CD player, radio.
You should have pretended like you didn't hear it so that she thought it was in her head.
What are you talking about? Yeah. But she walked in and she says, what is this thing? I said, turn it on. Came with a remote control, And this is 15 years later. This thing is still perfect. Right? And so there's nothing like being able to play the music you want when you're grooming your horse, or you're getting ready to ride your horse, or you're cleaning stalls, whatever it is you're doing. And I just love it. So we are simpatico like that. Now, I got to step back here, digress just a moment, because I want to ask you this question. When you were in high school and you were being bullied or whatever, how much of your life, what percentage was music involved in your life at that time? Did music ground you? Were you really into it at that particular point in your life, or was it a little later?
No, I was always into it heavily. It really started, they say your most important music starts when you're 10, 12, around there. So, when MTV began, we didn't have cable, but we would go to people's houses and family parties or whatever, and I would just be in front of MTV just the whole time. So
it was fascinating. Yeah.
When I go to school, I'd be like, have you seen this video? Have you seen that video? And they're all like, wow, you spend a lot of time on MTV. I'm like, we don't even have cable. So I knew all the videos, and there were video shows, but it was like I just couldn't get enough of that era.
The reason I'm asking is because I started playing drums when I was 7. And I really got into start playing with bands when I was 12. And I had some, I'm not going to call it bullying. It was more like people making fun of you because of your clothing, kind of like you. Some of that happened. However, I always had music to fall back on. I knew I was good at what I was doing, and I was getting better. And it always grounded me. It was my respite, my sanctuary, so to speak. I always knew that that nothing of what they said mattered because they really didn't know me or what I was involved in. And which is usually the case with bullies. They don't know who you are. They don't know the essence of who you are. They just look at something superficial and try to get a rise out of you. And if you let them, then they've won. And however, what I always stress is to focus on what talents and gifts you actually have, which is why I asked that question for you, because you were a talented musician. Even at that age, you kind of had an idea about where you were going. You were so into it, and how much of that just kind of made everything else that you were dealing with in school just kind of go right over your head, or maybe it impacted you a little bit for a little bit of period of time, but then it was gone. You didn't focus on it for a long period of time, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be Simon Le Bon, so. And then I remember when I saw Back to the Future, it was weird. When I saw Back to the Future, I was so inspired by that. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be Michael J. Fox. That film had
that was cool.
Sci-fi and cars, and he was just a cool dude. And I was like, that's what. So then I did a lot of, from even before that, I was doing plays and things, and I was getting cast in things. School stuff, but I didn't get into any school orchestras or anything like that, or the fine arts at the school. So nobody knew I was musically anything. I was in a band, but then I was getting in plays. My final years in high school, I was getting cast constantly. But my problem was I looked at roles as Tim Conway and Harvey Korman. So. I was cast I was given the lead in an Agatha Christie play, I remember, and I arranged it so that we turned it into a slapstick without the teacher knowing.
That's funny.
And,
I've never heard that before. That's amazing.
The audience loved it, and the head of the fine arts department said we were an embarrassment. And the teacher pushed me down a staircase out of anger.
Oh my gosh!
But the audience loved it, and I didn't care what they thought. So they went nuts. It was we had 2 nights, and then even after that experience, the teacher who pushed me down the staircase kept casting me and more and more.
Wow.
So then I went to college and I wanted to study drama. But
sounds like a conflict.
Yeah,
a mental conflict.
I mean, if that happened today, that school would be out of business, and everybody in jail.
Of course, yes. That teacher would be gone in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, so there was, I don't know, it's just very natural for me to get into those things, but I never, I thought about wanting to do it professionally, but you don't know what professionally means as a kid, So when I started college, I wanted to be a drama major. And I took some classes, but then my parents quickly reminded me that I'd be disowned in a bit of a roundabout way. So I was interested in psychology and graphic design as well. I'm like, well, maybe these. And then I had a terrible teacher in psychology and a terrible teacher in design, and that turned me off. So I picked the 2 most boring things you could pick, which is English literature and public relations, and which have helped me. And then graduate school was music business and all that. And then all I had to do, was literally focus on my strength is my creativity. I have to remind myself that all the time.
Right.
Yeah. Because sometimes you spend too much time on administrative stuff, paperwork, and all this crap, and it's the thing that has gotten me to where I am is my creativity. It's not knowing, the legal side. Well, the legal side and all that has definitely helped and all that stuff, but it's the creativity. So it took a while for me to realize that even though that has always been my strength and ideas and bringing creative elements together, that I still keep having to remind myself that that's my biggest strength, and that's what has gotten me to where I am.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I was going to say, there was a quote, and I don't know who said it, but they said in every aspect of your life, you automatically throw open the doors to opportunity. And I think about you being thrown down the stairs, and it's almost like a shocking thing, but you think about those actions towards you, and all you're trying to do is bring joy. And it just, maybe in some odd way, it prepared you for the entertainment industry, Eric, because...
Well, it's funny because...
Go ahead, please.
What I was going to say is it's funny because she pushed me down the stairs, and then the next night I did it again. So getting pushed down the stairs didn't really keep me from doing the play correctly, which I guess it should have.
That's interesting.
No, but I think what it solidified your knowingness, your intuitiveness in what an audience needs or what people are looking for. I find that so
very good point.
Amazing.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
You got the reaction. You got the response you were looking for.
Yeah, being on a stage, I don't know, it creates this awareness of like, this space needs to be filled with this spontaneous thing here, even though it's not in the script, or this space needs to be filled. I mean, who wants to see a serious Agatha Christie play, really, by a bunch of high school kids who are amateurs? I mean, so you have to spice it up and make it fun, and, people still tell me about that today, all those years later.
Fantastic.
We made an impression.
Yeah, so it's the same thing with really kind of all creative disciplines, for me anyway. Like if I'm just doing what somebody else is doing, I mean, somebody else could do it. But if I do it my way, then it's more interesting for me. And I guess for consumers as well.
That is awesome.
For sure.
No, definitely. It is the aspect of at that age, or understanding what brought joy to people's faces, and evidently the teacher figured it out as well and let you do it again, because it was, what you don't know is what people were saying to her. That was really cool. We loved it. That's not something she would have told you, but maybe she was getting compliments for being complimented on the creativity with regard to it, which was, all on you. But some people don't like to actually give credit to people when when it wasn't their idea. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. In the end, she wrote a nice thing in my yearbook encouraging me to go.
That's awesome.
for that. She said, you actually took it seriously. You could be really good. And
but you are really good.
She meant like in the acting realm and stuff. So like, and it's it shows in my other stuff too, because there's a theatrical element to the songs and the titles and the videos and the things. So I try to make it as art school as possible. So I guess that added to the confidence in a way.
That's true with what you're doing. That's awesome. That is absolutely amazing. I will tell you, this what's really interesting is that, and I'm told, I think I said this on the show before, but quickly, but when I didn't see I have a natural ability to be rhythmic and to play drums and intuitiveness when it comes to sitting down with a band, whether I know them or not, whether I know the song or not. I love playing songs. I love being challenged to fit in with music that I've never heard before, or I don't know very well. And what's interesting about it is that for
That's like
for
Steve
me.
Ferroni. You know Steve Ferroni?
Yeah.
Drummer Steve Ferroni? I mean, that's exactly how he is. I mean, he'll literally just hear something once, and there it is. And then he'll always be like, after the take, he's like, well, I could do it better. I'm like, no, you can't. You can do it differently. You can't do it.
That's true.
You can't. You're not going to do it the same way. You're not going to do. I never was into the monotony of things. I like to figure out a different way to put something together. However, I never saw being a professional. I was offered the opportunity when I was 15 by a group. We had a group. There was a group that came to town called the McCreary's. They were a sort of a Earth, Wind, and gospel version of Earth, Wind, and Fire. That
sounds like a Celtic band. Aye, the McCreary's.
Yeah, except they were a black group. They were
even
group,
cool.
Believe it or not.
even more interesting. Yeah.
They were out of L.A.
Cool.
They were. They had several albums out, and they were doing a tour. And they came to. They were working with the USO at the time. They came to the base, and they were looking to pick up a drummer because they figured we'll pick one up there. And somebody told me we had a band there, and they said, "Hey, you want to play a couple of gigs with this group?" And I said, "I don't even know who they are, man. I've never heard anything that they've ever done." And he said, "Well, they want to pick up they need to pick up a drummer, and you're probably the most likely candidate. So just go over there and talk to them." I went over there the afternoon they got there. Now they're playing a show at 8:00 that night, right? Oh, I got there at about noon. They were having a couple hours of rehearsal and went through all the songs with them and played with them that night. I couldn't today tell you the music. I couldn't tell you what I played, but I played it. And then I did another show the next night. And then the guy goes to me, he goes, "Hey," he says, "Man, I think you can be a really good studio musician." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Billy Preston's drummer, Emmanuel Kellogg, is a friend of ours, and I'm sure that if you came to L.A., you could work with him and be a really." No, I was 15. Okay, my parents were going to let me go to L.A. when I was 15. And so that didn't happen. But it was nice that they saw that. It was nice that they saw something that I didn't. And I do this before, and I don't know if you do this, but when I go places, I travel the world or whatever, and I find a band, I come across a band, I like to go up and ask them if I can sit in for a couple of tunes. Now, they don't know me, I don't know them, they don't know how I do, and they let me play. And they go like, we do 3 or 4 songs together, 5 songs together, and they're like, because they have, and I always wonder, what are you doing? You're letting somebody play with you in a live gig that you don't know, and you don't even know how they play. They might embarrass the heck out of you, but you say yes. And it astounds me to this day that they do that, right?
That's cool.
They don't ask any questions. They just say, come on, let's go ahead.
I would say, Michael, you have faith in your ability, and I think that radiates. And so when you approach them, they probably feel that and know that you're,
It has to. It has to.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah, I've been in auditions where I remember I was producing this one band and we were auditioning drummers, and some guys came in and they could not play for hell, and then you're just like, but you still had to give them the props for trying. I like that they tried, but they couldn't keep time if time, fell out of the sky and crushed them, but I still admire them for taking the chance, even though there's absolutely no way.
No chance.
No chance. Unless they practice.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I guess where I was going with this is, here's the thing. Sometimes the thing that we do, not with you particularly, but yes, you in terms of acting, perhaps. Being on stage and acting prepared you for being on stage with music later in life, made you comfortable with being on stage. I always felt that being on stage when I was 7, because I went down and played with the Officers Club band on Saturday evenings because the drummer was teaching me how to play. So on a Saturday night, full house, we're talking the big band era here. We're talking 1965, 66. And at the Officers Club, they had a big band, and I was learning Tijuana, Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass, typical 4/4
That's awesome.
Music, 4/4 beat, and I'd be asked up to play a couple of songs from dinner on Saturday night. And I always felt that was so that I could be comfortable being in front of people, so that later in life, when I had to speak in front of people, I had a high level of comfort. And so it's sometimes, we look back at something, people say, oh, yeah, well, how come you didn't make a living being a professional drummer? I said, well, I wasn't meant to be a professional drummer. That wasn't a path that I was supposed to take. Kind of like for you, it wasn't acting, it was music, and but everything adds to the whole, everything. It's like this, like a pyramid thing. A bunch of things happen. You get a foundation, you get these experiences, and it all takes you to the top of where you're supposed to be. And I think it's awesome. My brother, believe it or not, did the absolute opposite. He learned how to play music 3 years after I learned how to play drums. He learned how to play guitar, and we went on to play in bands. Yeah, we went on to play bands together, and he still has a band today. He has the guitars. He's a very good guitarist, actually. He has a band, a blues band, that he plays with, and on occasion when I'm in LA, when they do something live, I'll go up and sing backup and stuff like that, which is always a lot of fun. However, the interesting thing, and he'll get, he goes to do a lot of Trek conventions, Psychic conventions. They bring the band over and he plays on a Saturday night. However, he didn't get into acting until he was 17. He did his first play at 17. So this was 8 years after he learned how to play the guitar, where he thought, music might have been the path for him. Professionally, it wasn't music, it was acting. And for you, it was completely the opposite. I find that fascinating, that you have we all have multiple talents, and we tend to pick one based on certain triggers in I guess, pivots in our lives. And for Tim, it was the play at 17. After he did this play, Your Good Man, Charlie Brown, in Turkey, we were living in Turkey, we were in high school over there. And after that play, he came to my parents and said, I want to be an actor. After that one play, he said, this is what I want to do with my life. And it wasn't music. And we were playing music. We had a band. We had a nice 9-piece band. It was awesome. And he said, no, I want to do this. And so they said, okay, great. So they sent him to a private university where he got a degree in acting, in theater, in all the stuff that surrounds all that, right? And he did plays. Interestingly enough, what was it? He did a play with, here's the ironic thing about this. He did a play with Leonard Nimoy.
Oh, wow.
How's that for irony?
What play?
Did a play with I think it was Caligula.
Wow.
It was Caligula.
Waiting.
Yeah, Leonard came in and played Caligula.
That could use some comedy. Right.
Well, I mean, it could be. I mean, it's like, but the interesting thing is, he did a play with Leonard Nimoy, and then decades later ended up reprising the role that Nimoy played later on.
Yeah,
so you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, it's really tricky, but we all have to pay attention to our own little pivots. I don't ever believe in coincidence or accidents, and I know that at least it doesn't, because there are reasons why things happen, and if we're too focused on the thing that didn't happen, or we're upset about the thing that didn't go well, the mistake we made, we could be actually missing the avenue that we need to be taking, which is my point. You had the awareness. Lisa's had the awareness. I've had the awareness. Others we know have had the awareness to kind of be able to push our failures or things that didn't work out right the way we wanted off to the side, but they never let us take our eyes off of the thing. We always retained an awareness of something just ahead of us, right? Instead of looking behind us, we're looking ahead of us, and this is how things happen. And your creativity is looking ahead. It's always looking ahead, not looking behind you. That's where creativity happens. So it's really cool with regard to that with you.
Yeah, and I just want to mention for our audience, because we've got about 9 minutes left, and I want to make sure I can, let our audience know. Eric, your website, it's abeautifuldaytoday.com, which links everything together. To me, it really sums it up, because for me, when I read those words, it's a beautiful day today, I feel that contentment. I feel your smile. I feel like all of it's radiating warmth from you. And I think that, it's sort of like a beacon. People are drawn to it. And how wonderful for each one of us to have a beautiful day today. And so I want to ask you, in all of the things that you create and sort of the things that you kind of bring together, I think it's just naturally a part of you that there's the positivity, and there's a belief in self, and also that self-worth. Like for our audience members that would like to have a beautiful day today, is there any words of wisdom or something that you'd like to share that really, when you get up in the morning, that's your choice, and how you make that choice and you grow that into your experience and share it with others?
I think a lot of negative experiences probably fuel the positivity, because sometimes you see people who have had it pretty easy and they're just pessimistic, and then they go through some kind of crisis, and then they're more positive, but not everybody's like that, of course. But I've seen that in a lot of people. So I think that a lot of the bad things I've been through have pushed me to notice more nuances. I've always been very detail-oriented and always noticed people's feelings and empathetic and, colors and shapes and things like that. But, when you get older, you come to the realization that there's no other way to live. To be negative all the time and to be bummed out and just be like, this sucks, that sucks, whatever, all the time. It's like, just go away. I'm just not interested.
Right.
That's true.
No
yeah, you got to do that.
I'm not going to spend what little time I may have left on this planet, babysitting people's lack of their dissatisfaction with themselves. So. Mm-hmm. It's hard to focus on, for most people, many people, to notice the little nuances around you. A nice tree or something, and some people will be like, that's just hippie nonsense. Well, it really isn't.
No, it's not. You're right.
We're surrounded by so much garbage all the time, whether it's like corporations trying to convince us that our lives are inadequate so that we spend money on their products, or politics or news and garbage in the street, whatever. So it takes hard focus to really see that there are great things all around, and focus on the great people and your closest friends who you trust, and they don't judge you if you tell them something that's bugging you or whatever. And, it's just you just have to focus on the positive. It's easier said than done, but it's the only way to function. So that's
except for the fact that if you don't actually give it a shot, you're never going to get there. So I agree with you. I agree with absolutely everything you said there. Beautifully said. Well said.
Yeah, I have a friend who his family's gone. He was raised by his grandmother, and his fiancée died suddenly at a young age, and he's all alone. But he's actually pretty positive. But he's, it's hard for him to kind of see a future when he lost the love of his life and has no family whatsoever. But the reality is, it is a mathematical equation. If you make the effort to keep moving forward, and make the effort to meet new people, after, a certain grieving period, or when you start to feel comfortable, and you make the effort to get another job and, get a new place to live, and et cetera, you're moving forward, you're creating new memories, and you're making progress. If you're sitting around on a couch and complaining that this sucks, that sucks, and constantly living in the past, you'll just wither away. And not everybody has the inner strength to do that. But if you don't, you got to find it, because there's no other way to survive and
music
function.
Changes that. I sent something to Michael earlier, and I'd love to do a show on this. They said that if you listen to at least 5 songs, that it shifts your energetic being, that you can take you from sad to happy, and I really truly believe
5
that.
5 songs a day.
Just making 5 songs a day. Yep.
Mm-hmm. They've been studies on that. Yeah, they've been.
Aren't they certain types of songs though? I mean, we're not talking about
probably
something that's
probably the tunes that you gravitate towards, the ones that have memories, good memories with your childhood, fun stuff, whatever. Right. Whereas, if it's new, you might be like, God, this is crap. Like, what am I listening to? This is making me feel worse.
Well, I got to tell you, I the one song of yours that makes me smile, and the video is so whimsical, is "Here Comes the Snow." I was singing that song, and I'm not a snow girl anymore, but I was singing that, and it's just joyful and fun and whimsical, and you just
kids like that. Thank you.
Super fun. I think it could take shift a move from. And I don't know that was intentional, but it's just one of those pieces of music that can take you from XYZ mood to a place of happiness, joy, silliness, and maybe it goes back to your Agatha Christie performance. Maybe that's where it extends from. I don't know. But
it was inspired by a dream I had where I was ice skating with Charlize Theron.
Wow.
Okay, that's a pretty nice time.
Yeah. So like that.
Charlize Theron. Yeah. We'd all like to ice skate if I could.
Exactly. That's my most valuable tune, actually. That brings in the most every year than anything else.
Oh, does it? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Funny.
Yeah. So we have a couple of minutes left, and I'd love for either one of you to close out the show with just whatever you'd like to share with our audience. And again, I just want to mention, you can find Eric's music. On It's a Beautiful Day Today is probably the best link, because it'll take you to the music and the Instagram and the Facebook and to all of the wonderful world that is Eric Alexandrakis. And so I'd love for either one of you to share whatever you'd like to leave the audience with.
I actually deleted my Twitter yesterday, but then I was like, somebody could make one with my name, and somebody else will own it, and it'll have my name. So I'm like, so I canceled it. I can't stand that. So I have a love-hate relationship.
Don't spend a lot of time on that, but I'm going to echo something that you just said there. Don't invest in negative people. Don't invest in negativity. It doesn't pay dividends.
No.
It doesn't pay anything. It keeps you married.
It sucks the life out of you. And also because, when you're in the entertainment business, you're surrounded by it. So
there and acting and everywhere else.
Yeah, it's difficult, but
we'll enjoy life.
Yeah.
Take a walk. Thank you for being with us, though, man.
Yeah, thank you so
pleasure.
much, Eric, for being with us. You really do. You really show how to rise above adversity and realize your dreams, and you bring so much light and so much beauty to the world. And I just want to thank you for joining us and sharing your insights. And Michael, the same to you. I'm just grateful.
Yeah, thank you. So always love it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and look forward to our next exploration here on Connect to Love on PRNFM.
Sounds like fun.
Enjoy an awesome week. And, be groovy.
Yeah. You too.
Take care.
We'll chat soon. Cheers. All right.